The furniture making industry was analogous to NASA. When this was made, very, very smart people were making it. And the people who did this in the 18th century are designing computers, are at Mercedes-Benz engineering. No one would be able to pay what these things would have to be worth if you had people doing it today.
What is Dalva Antiques?
Well, it's a time machine, I guess. It started about 75 years ago by my father and his brothers.
And my father,
French 18th century furniture.
His brothers were originally from France, and we've always been in French antiques.
Why French period? Why not Renaissance? Italian? Why not English period?
The thing about the French piece, every piece has an originality. The English furniture is very often a series. They resemble each other. These are really works of art.
There are no pattern books in French furniture as there are in English furniture, where you bought a book by Duncan Fife or somebody like that, and there were patterns in there, and then you just recreated the furniture. Here, it's all original. It's all.
And it was, a huge industry in France, and people came to be cabinet makers from all over Europe. Italians and Dutch and Germans came there. Also, people came from all over Europe to buy in Paris. It was a something one did. I think the furniture is being seen, as something more than just an applied art when it's at a certain level.
A lot has to do too with the Victorian period, when a lot of books and a lot of things were written, and the Victorians were very much into worship. Paintings are real art because one can only touch them with their eyes.
So you're saying that today
we're influenced by that because that's called art.
Yes.
And that's the definition of art, and that's when all the definitions of these things were written, and the other things, well, they're pedestrian.
In pricing, I gather what you're looking for is the highest price goes to something which has been touched least.
It's a question of degree and how sensitively it was done. But the hierarchy is really kind of an aesthetic.
What it's about is the beauty, the artistic movement. When you see it, does it create an emotion?
Americans have been collecting French furniture since the 18th century.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, George Washington, Jefferson, they had wonderful, I wouldn't say wonderful, but they had very good, solid, pieces of French furniture. And then after the Revolution, Colonel Juan from Boston went and brought back fabulous things that are, because those were royal pieces.
Yeah.
And those are, a lot of them are in the Boston Museum and are, really kind of the jewels in their collection. So that taste has been here really from the inception of the country.
There's a lot of French furniture in the White House in Washington.
Some of which we saw.
Do you have the ability to restore things here in New York?
We actually have the shop here, and and also it allows us to go down and say stop or continue.
You have to watch the restoration because you're restoring something that is 200 years old, and you want to go to the original and no further.
Especially in Paris, they can do too much. Several years ago, the Metropolitan Museum had the exhibition of the King Tut tomb. And there was a chair there, and we had each seen the show separately, and we came in and said, "Oh, wasn't the show one of it?" And we each said almost simultaneously, "Did you see the chair?" And we said yes. And what was intriguing to us was that it was constructed in a way an 18th century chair, King Tut's chair, because the art of joining wood is ancient, and there's really only one way you can do it.
What were some of the extremes of technique and technology that they had back in those days?
Furniture veneered with feathers.
Come on.
Yeah.
Feathers?
Feathers.
How do you veneer something with feathers?
With patience and time and some beautiful dead birds.
None of them survived.
Well, there's one in Versailles. There's one in Versailles. There's a cabinet in Versailles, which royal cabinet, which has the feathers. It's I think a lot of it is under glass, but nevertheless, there was straw marquetry, where you would take a piece of straw and split it, flatten it, stain it, glue it down.
Come on.
Yeah.
They're doing all this crazy stuff?
Well, I wouldn't say they were doing a lot. I mean, the wood marquetry is just as crazy when you think about it. I mean, someone had to go into the rainforest, chop the tree down by hand, lug it to the river, bring it down to the port, get it on the sailing ship, bring it to Paris, saw it into a veneer. That's crazy too.
Yes.
But the wood was just much more beautiful than the indigenous ones, and they thought it was worth it.
One of the reasons why it is marquetry is because the wood on the surface was so valuable that you didn't make a whole solid piece out of it.
Clear.
And very early, when you look at mahogany, which was used in the Louis XVI period, it is almost all veneer. When you get later into the Empire period, and they started importing more from Europe, now you get where it becomes solid.
To a very, very large extent, the furniture making industry was analogous to NASA.
Really?
Yeah, because the French government was pouring in huge amounts of money to state-owned decorative arts enterprises. There were Sèvres. There was the tapestry at Gobelin. There was bunches of cabinet makers who were working directly for the king in the Louvre.
Why are you chaps in this business?
For us, it's very easy. You just look at it and say, well...
Yeah, but you could have done something else with your life. This is a real...
This is continual discovery. It's continual exploration.
Continual education. There's always something new and wonderful that
there's a tremendous
maybe
joy
never seen before.
Finding something that has been essentially unrecognized, and seeing behind the dirt and paint and whatever else people have put on it, what's underneath it, and then bringing it up and then suddenly restoring it back to its former glory and saying, my God, look at this thing. This was sleeping, now it's awake.